Hello and welcome back to the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Ferguson, back with another episode breaking down UCLA's next matchup against Oregon, a team where UCLA was able to beat earlier in the season, but this matchup will look a little bit differently. But before we get started, I want to thank everyone who is tuning in right now. It means a lot to me. And yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So entering this game, UCLA is 14-6. And Oregon is 8-12. Oregon has had a rough stretch of games since UCLA. They have not really played that well, but there are a lot of factors to that. We'll kind of get into that a little bit later. But for the Bruins, this game is going to mean a lot. Right now, they are projected to be 10th in March Madness, according to the bracketology article over on ESPN. So UCLA is going to need to win this game. And then, we got Indiana right after, who is looking good, by the way. I think right now, as I'm recording this, they are beating Purdue, along with, Rutgers. And then that's kind of when you get into the rough part of their schedule with Washington, Michigan State, teams like that. So a win here for the Bruins means a lot. When I predicted UCLA's next 5, I had UCLA winning this one kind of decisively. Oregon still is a very sneaky team. This season, they're averaging 73 points per game, but their defense has been rough. They're averaging 74.2. Rebounding is where they could really hurt UCLA. They're averaging 36.2. And they're also blocking 4.4 shots per game. On UCLA side of things, they're scoring 77.4. Their defense as we've seen, has improved. They are now giving up 69.1 points per game. And UCLA is, like I said, at a rebounding disadvantage, with only 31.9 per game. So when you kind of look at this matchup, the what's really going to be the decider for the Bruins is going to be how well their defense plays along with their offense. I know that's like a bare bones take when you kind of think about that. Obviously, the offense is going to play well and the defense too if you're going to win a game. That just has to happen. But I think even more so, UCLA has that advantage. Oregon is going to be without Nate Biddle, who suffered an ankle injury. So that's going to take a lot of the weight off Xavier Booker, Tyler Bilodeau, Eric Daly kind of down in the paint. So that's going to be something good for UCLA. However, they really do need to watch out for Jackson Shelstad, who was absolutely incredible in UCLA's game when Nate Biddle had that kind of off game, right? So when against the UCLA earlier this season, he scored 20 points in the loss on pretty good shooting. At times, he looked unstoppable. Donovan Dent was having some trouble guarding him. But overall, if UCLA can kind of cut down on Shelstad's impact in this one, they're going to have a good chance to kind of make some noise and kind of win in the way that UCLA needs to win this game, right? Because, again, moving forward, they need to play some of their best basketball, even against these unranked teams in their schedule, right? They need to prove that they're going to be able to kind of walk into Michigan, and maybe lose by 3 or even win by a couple, right? And that starts with a good win over Oregon to kind of kick off this, stretch. Obviously, they're entering this with a 2-game win streak over Purdue and Northwestern. But again, the Northwestern game wasn't that pretty for UCLA. So as it stands right now, I feel like this team is on a fresh, clean slate kind of entering, this stretch of games to round out the season because they are the most important games. Do I think UCLA blows out Oregon? I don't think so. I think it might be a close game, but still they're out without their best player. But Oregon's not that bad, without Biddle. Obviously, the wins don't really show it, but when you kind of look at UCLA's game earlier, Nate Biddle really struggled, right? I think he was 0 for 10, only made points from the free throw line. Rebounding-wise, not that good. I think that it was kind of a mix of multiple things, mostly them kind of rushing him back from injury. So again, this game is going to be completely different for UCLA. That kind of black hole in the paint is not going to be there for Oregon. So they're going to have to rely on other places to score, which I think UCLA will be good at. They have shown to be a decent team on the perimeter. The paint is where they've been killed a lot this season. But again, I don't think this season is going to be, or this game in particular is going to be that hard for UCLA. So now I'm going to kind of talk about 3 players for UCLA who will need to have a very good game. Again, Sky Clark, he's still questionable, but if he were to kind of be back in this game, I would, for sure in this game, I would kind of address him. But For starters, I really do think Eric Daly Jr. is going to need to continue to rebound at a high level. He's had around 7 to 8 in his last 2 games, and that's been huge for UCLA's defensive improvements in those games. And his offense, I really want to see him score at least 15 plus points in this one. The biggest reason being is that he has been an inconsistent shooter at times, and that has kind of caused points in the other direction. That's what happened in Northwestern. That's what happened against Purdue. His turnovers cannot be a problem. He struggled with turnovers lately. Again, that simply cannot happen in this one because it might be closer than UCLA hoped. It's an away game. There's already some odds kind of not in their favor. I also really want to see Eric Freeney kind of have a good game here off the bench, right? Again, Sky Clark might not play in this game. He might play. Still, hamstring injuries are kind of tricky. But if Eric Freeney is able to kind of come in, play about 10 minutes, because, Trent Perry and Donovan Dent have played, 30 minutes in the last 6-7 games, right? That's not going to be sustainable for him. So if Eric Freeney is able to see the court, he needs to make the most of those minutes so, Donovan Dent and Trent Perry can get more of that rest there at the guard position, because it's going to be needed, right, when UCLA is going to be starting, to think about the tournament here in about a month and a half, right? So we want to see him have a good game. I'm not saying he needs to blow up the scoreboard, but, be a factor on defense, offense, make a couple plays here and there. Same thing with Jamar Brown. I really want to see him have a good game, but he's not the third player that I wanted to see do well in this one. But still, I think Eric Freeney really needs to show that he can be a reliable, option off the bench. Mick Cronin doesn't really trust him, as we saw in the Purdue game. I think he played 8 minutes. He didn't really do much there. But this game offers a great chance for Freeney to have a very good game. Moving on to the third player, I feel like that UCLA really needs to perform in this one. I'm going to say Donovan Dent. He has played well, kind of, in Northwestern, obviously against Purdue, 23 points, 13 assists. Historic game across the board for Dent. But we need to see that against Oregon again. I know he probably won't need to do, that 23 points, 10 plus assists. But in this one, he needs to be a factor on the offensive side of the ball. I'm talking 15 points, creating points for Bilodeau, Daly, even Booker at times, right? He needs to be that offensive facilitator that is going to give UCLA an edge, and that in turn will prevent the offense from kind of sputtering out like we saw in the Northwestern game. And especially if Eric Freeney is able to come in there, give Dent some rest, and he's playing fresh minutes, I think Dent makes a big impact in this one, no matter what. And again, he's going to be matched up against Shellshed. We might see them, Trent Perry and Dent kind of switch off on him, but still, that's what's going to make or break this game, honestly. If Shellstad gets hot like he did in the game earlier, this game's a lot closer. Because like I said, Nate Biddle played a huge role in that loss against UCLA earlier this season. Like I said, 0 for 10. They're not going to have to worry about someone going 0 for 10, coming off injury, rushing him back. So with that being said, I think Dent will play a massive role. And obviously the others are going to be huge, just as much as the other 3 I named, right? Xavier Booker is still going to need to have a good game in the trenches. Same thing with, Tyler Bilodeau. Bilodeau is going to be hot. I believe it. But kind of an honorable mention with those 3 players. I know I'm kind of limiting it to 3 players, but still, I think Trent Perry really needs to prove why he deserves, to remain in the starting lineup, even when Sky Clark comes back. And that starts with a great performance against Oregon. If he's able to score at a high rate, score the 3 ball well, I think that's an argument in itself that Trent Perry should be the starter moving forward. And again, this is not a slight at Sky Clark, but it's kind of simple that, Trent Perry has been playing good basketball. And if he's playing good, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's the bottom line moving forward for UCLA, because they need to win these games. We can't see, them switching up their lineup, switching up their rotations as much. What works, works. And maybe later on, you can kind of experiment, right, if things aren't going well. But right now, what's working well is what UCLA currently has on the court right now. It's Donovan Dent, Trent Perry, Bilodeau, Daly, and then Booker. That has worked well for UCLA, and I don't think UCLA needs to change it. So entering this game, or to kind of wrap things up, I think UCLA still wins by, a sizable margin. I'm talking 10, 12 points, 15 at most, maybe. I really do want to see as a team how they step up on defense, right? Back-to-back games under 70 points allowed. That is something that is going to impress, voters moving forward. I talked about why it stunk that UCLA did not get a single vote, but just things like that are going to come into play here. But that's all I have today. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Let me know what you guys think, how UCLA can take this game, things to look out for, and thank you.